I was testing myself every day by opening up the jar of oregano and, taking a, smell and no, not yet. It hasn't come back yet. So yeah, it's just one of those, it's one of those really important ingredients in a real hallmark of Greek cooking.
Today on Dirty Linen's summer series, we are going Greek. We're talking to Nicole Papasavas from Stalactites, the legendary city restaurant in Melbourne. I think everyone in Melbourne, certainly I do, has a stalactite story. They're often not to be repeated. But I'm really thrilled to have Nicole on the show today. Welcome to Dirty Linen.
Thank you, Dani. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's so good to have you, and I can't wait to hear about some memorable meals and flavours that you're really fond of. What are you going to talk about with us today?
So I thought today I'd talk about being, we're moving into summer, reminding me of summer in Greece, actually. So I thought I'd talk about a dish that I love having in Greece. Might have been very traditionally Greek, but it's definitely the ingredients are traditional. So it's a crayfish gritharaki that we tend to always have every time we go to Mykonos. There's a little tavern there on the beach that we have it at. I thought I'd talk about oregano, Greek oregano, and how important that is to me and to Greek cooking. And then just a comfort Greek food, which is like a dessert called risogalo, which is a rice pudding.
Oh, I'm already so here for this. Shall we start on Mykonos? Because I would love to be transported there immediately.
Oh, so would I. Yeah, love to. We've been going to Mykonos with my husband for the last 15 years and, taking our kids there since they were born and even before they were born and, still, being cooked. We tend to go to this, we always beeline to this restaurant on the beach called Solima, and it's on a beach called Kalolivadi in Mykonos, and it is the most beautiful, pristine, quiet beach, and it has this restaurant there, and everybody goes there for this crayfish gritharaki. Now, gritharaki is it's like a Greek version of, it's like a pasta, it's like orzo. It's the way that the Italians call orzo. We call it gritharaki, and it's we cook it in a similar way, but obviously in a more Greek, in a Greek fashion in terms of the ingredients that we use. And we get this crayfish gritharaki there, and they bring it out in this big, huge pan. And, it serves sometimes 10 to 12 people. And they just go around and they scoop it on. They shave this beautiful kefalotiri cheese on top, which is like it's like a salty cheese that, goes really well with it. So it's just absolutely stunning.
Is the crayfish chopped up, or is it just placed on top in pieces?
It's placed on top in pieces, but it's sort of a bit diced, so then everyone can have their own sort of a portion of it. But it is the quintessential, summer dish on the beach in Greece. I mean, and lobster isn't traditionally very Greek. I mean, it is indigenous to Greece having the lobster, but it's not something that people tend to have a lot of. So you can do the gritharaki with anything. You can do it with, any type of seafood, and it's just superb. I mean, because, you cook gritharaki the way that you'd cook a risotto. You do it slowly. You start off with, a bit of, butter and oil and, white wine, some fish stock in it, and you slowly stir it while you're, and it absorbs the liquid as it's cooking. So it's a very slowly cooked process, but it's the same as risotto, but it's like the piece. It's like little pasta, but little rice shaped pasta.
Oh my goodness. I just love the sound of this.
It's just it really is amazing, and it's a real comfort food because I remember from when I was young, when I was a kid, my yaya, my grandmother would make gritharaki, we call it manestra. And it's like when your yaya babysat or you were at your yaya's house, that was your standard meal was, manestra. And even now my kids, my mother-in-law will say, what should I feed the kids for dinner? I just, they all just want manestra, which is just like the gritharaki. And so it's just like a standard thing on repeat. It's, it's the most easiest thing to cook, and kids love it. I love it. It gives you that sort of warm sort of feeling of nostalgia and of your grandmother. And It's really, and we make it here at Stalactites too. So I got back from Greece, and I said to my chef, I said, "Oh, you really need to make this." And she said, "Well, I'm not doing it with lobster, but I'm going to do it the way that we do it in southern Greece." She's from Kalamata. And we bake it with meat. So we do it with chicken or with lamb, with beef sometimes, and it's like in the oven. She does it with like in a red tomato sauce, and it's called yuvetsi. And it's one of those dishes that's just traditional to every single part of Greece.
It sounds like it. I mean, the Mykonos version, the lobster version, I'm just feeling that's so summery. But then the baked version with like beef or lamb, I'm feeling like that's beautiful during winter as well.
Yeah, it's a winter dish. Yeah, but it's an all year round dish too.
Shall we talk about oregano?
Yeah. That's like obviously the Greeks, most favorite, aside from olive oil and salt. Oregano is our top ingredient. So it's one of those things that you can't go to a Greek home without going in their pantry and seeing some sort of dried oregano hanging somewhere, or it's already been we call it trimeno, which is like you've got to like grind it through your fingertips, like it's you can't be done any other way after you've dried it. And it's one of those staples that every Greek home has got oregano that's come from Greece, or it's somehow been smuggled into Australia in some way or another, through someone's brought seeds in and planted them and grown them. And so it's one of those, again, those ingredients in cooking, in Greek cooking, that just means a lot to I think Greek people in general.
It's not that long ago that I was in a cab and the Greek driver, an older gentleman, was talking to me about oregano, and yeah, exactly as you say, like it was that he collected it, or sometimes a cousin collected it, and then it was smuggled in suitcases back to Melbourne. And just there's a deep need to have it. Like it wasn't negotiable. It wasn't something that was an option. It was a need.
Oh, you're absolutely right. If there's no, there's a few staples in your home, and in my home it's cucumbers, oregano, and salt and oil. If those 4 items don't exist in your home, it's something's gone wrong. Like you're almost like, I can't cook today because I don't have this. And I know this is a bit of a silly story, but we all actually got COVID about 8 weeks ago.
Oh,
and
my God.
And we lost our sense of taste and smell.
Oh.
And I was devastated. I was in my pantry opening up the oregano, which is my chef Dimitra. They smuggled it in from years and years ago, and she grows it in her garden. And I've got a big bunch on my desk right now. It's a fresh bunch that I have to go take home and dry and start and grind it up. She said in about 2 weeks it'll be ready. And I was going into my pantry and opening up my my plastic container or my glass jars of the oregano, and I couldn't smell a thing. And usually you'd open it up and the whole pantry it'd permeate the whole pantry. That's how strong it is. I was devastated. I said, "No, this is awful. I don't know how I'm ever going to, cope. I can't smell the oregano." And my husband was like, "Nicole, just calm down. You'll be fine. You'll be right." So it's...
How long was it till it came back, and what was that first sniff like?
It was amazing. It was about a week and a half. And then I sort of ran out, so I can smell everything again. And he was like, "Oh," he goes, "Yeah, I'm very happy for you now. Just leave me alone." So I was like, But it's, it was, that was one thing that I was testing myself every day by opening up the jar of oregano and, taking a smell and, no, not yet. It hasn't come back yet. So, yeah, it's just one of those, it's one of those really important ingredients, like a real hallmark of Greek cooking.
Yeah, totally. And you said it'll take a couple of weeks to get it, dried exactly how that crumble through the fingers texture. Do you dry it in the sun or in the oven? Like, how do you do that?
I've heard people can do it in the oven. I've never myself done it. I just hang it in the courtyard, in a courtyard in my house. It's not, you don't want to dry it in full sun because then it gets a bit, the leaves turn a bit brown and black. It's almost like I think you burn it with the sun. So you just dry it in a sunny spot, but that sort of doesn't get full sun all day. And it takes about 2 weeks, and then I just put it in a tray inside the house and let it dry even more, and then you start to sort of grind it up between your fingers.
I love it. Is that this kind of job that you'd have like the whole family around the table, like grinding it through their fingers?
My kids do it for about 30 seconds and then they're like, okay, we're going now. But yeah, it's something that I end up having to do most of the time. But I don't mind because, I'm the one that uses it. So I'm really happy. But it's nice having the good sort of like the fresh, Greek oregano from Greece. So, because there are a few different varieties of oregano, but this one's the Greek one.
Love it. Okay, and we're going to move to dessert now.
So dessert is most memorable dessert, which is actually not just dessert, it's also breakfast in our home, is rice pudding. Risotto again it's comfort food, and as you can see, there's a bit of a theme going on with my choices. I'm all about comfort food, so rice pudding is just one of those things that, again, reminds me of my being a child. It reminds me of my grandmother, reminds me of my mum. It's my mother-in-law. It's my kids love it. It's just one of those things that, again, you talk to any Greek about rice pudding, they're just like, oh, my mum's got the best recipe, or my grandmother's got the best recipe. And it's so simple. I mean, it's really just, milk and butter and, a bit of sugar and vanilla and you're done, and rice, obviously. And it's, you can have for breakfast, for a dessert. It's one of just, again, any time of the day you can eat rice pudding.
And is it nutmeg or cinnamon that's traditional, or could it be
cinnamon?
Okay.
But you could put nutmeg if you wanted to. And I know there are different, like I think
someone's might do that.
Yeah, and I know of. So my husband's Cypriot. My mother-in-law has told me she's put rose water in it before and pistachios because it gives it a bit of more of a Middle Eastern flavour to it. So. You could even do it with, if you want to do like coconut milk and mango through it, like, it's a rice pudding. So I think, most cultures have their own version of it. But yeah, I find that, when Dimitri, our chef at Stalactites, makes it, she usually makes it in the morning, and I'll come in the morning to start work, and I'll see the rice pudding being made, and it's okay, that's my breakfast today. So I was just eating rice pudding for breakfast, and everyone's like, okay. And then I look over, my dad yesterday was eating rice pudding for breakfast as well. I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, she just made it, I had to eat it. I was like, yeah, now I know where I get it from. So it's definitely something that again, it reminds you of childhood, and it's just beautiful. It's not too sweet. It's the rice, the texture of the rice is nice. It's one of those desserts that you can't go wrong.
Yeah, it's delicate, isn't it? But it's also very sustaining. That like there's a bit of body to it, but yeah, it's not super heavy. Like I can totally imagine having it for breakfast, and you'd have a bit of spring in your step for the rest of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love it, Nicole. You have really transported me. I am very hungry, more hungry than I was when I started this conversation, but I feel like I've had a little bit of the sunshine of Mykonos, and I feel like if I smelt my fingers, they'd be fragrant with the oregano that I've crumbled, and I'm also feeling very comforted by the rice pudding. So thank you so much for sharing your memorable meals and flavours with me today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dani. Thanks for having me today.
Absolute pleasure. Take care.
You too. Bye.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat.deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This